Hello everyone, so in this video here we're going to be talking about Fafnir. And Fafnir, from my understanding, was designed to be the, if not one of the strongest myth units in the game. Now being endowed that strength should carry some risks as well, because you can't be the strongest myth unit in the game and not have some downsides to you as well. The downside of making Fafnir is whoever is able to slay him is awarded 300 gold. Now, thinking about that, at his level of strength and his power level, is that 300 gold really necessary? Is he really even one of the strongest myth units in the game? Well, let's find out together. So let's just go ahead and get the basics out of the way. Fafnir is available to Freyr. If you're playing Freyr and you research fighter, you're able to create Fafnir. The other Norse gods don't have the option of going into Vidar. Only Freyr does. Fafnir costs 300 gold, 35 favor, and it's 5 population space. Overall, not that expensive, it's very reasonable. If you look at its stats on paper, it's actually pretty insane. It has amazing tankiness, and then overall DPS is very high too. So on paper, solid unit. It has a special which deals area of effect damage, 1 divine damage a second, and does that damage to any unit standing in front of it. Really good special, really good HP, really good DPS, cost is not that high either. The only downside, as I said before, is it gives 300 gold to whoever slays him. And if you're trying to be cheeky and just kill Fafnir in the corner of the map, then your opponent will still get the resources. So that's the downside. If you're actually thinking about it, the real cost of Fafnir is probably 600 gold. So if we look at the stats on paper, Fafnir absolutely dismantles all other myth units in the Mythic Age in terms of overall effective HP. To a degree, the Colossus has a little bit more Pierce, but in terms of melee, Fafnir has way more. In terms of speed, Fafnir is actually really fast too. Like if you compare Fafnir to the Fire Giant, or the Centimanus, or the Colossus, it's 4.8 versus around 3. The Avenger is a lot faster, but the Avenger is a different type of unit, right? It's more of a raiding myth unit, I would say, than Fafnir, which is just a frontline beast. Do I think on paper Fafnir is really strong? I would say the numbers speak for itself. If you look at these, Fafnir absolutely dismantles most of these myth units. However, there's more to a myth unit than just its effective HP or its stats. A myth unit also has a lot of specials. So let's take a look at that as well and see how Fafnir compares to his peers. So I think there's 2 primary modes of combat that myth units are going to be engaged in Age of Mythology. It's going to be right up close and personal, which is this scenario right now. And second is they're going to have assistance from their army, and they're going to be the backline DPS unit, which is going to be our next test thereafter. So in this test, let's just get started. Let's just see how it goes. And yep, let's click that unpause button. And you can see right off the bat that the Fire Giant actually did the most up front. He did a lot of damage to almost every hoplite around him. Some are almost dead. Whereas Fafnir did a little bit of damage, but not that much. And the Chimera, which is damage over time, it's still going to take some time for that to kick in. The Avenger is actually doing pretty well too. So I would say first place I would give Fire Giant right off the bat because it did a ton of damage right from the get-go, whereas the Avenger needs time to power up, the Chimera needs time to power up, and Fafnir is actually doing a slow but steady amount of damage. So let's just continue. You see, the Fire Giant did really good right off the bat with the special, but thereafter, I don't think he's doing that well. Now he's doing 1 damage, like he's attacking 1 unit at a time. Whereas look at the Avenger, absolutely crushing it, killing so many units in its path, right? So this type of test, the Avenger is going to excel at. So this is his bread and butter, right? Whereas this is not the Fire Giant's bread and butter. This is not a test that he's going to excel at because he's meant to be at the back line. The Chimera is actually having a lot of trouble as well. Remember, the Chimera is not supposed to be like... He can be used up in the front, but he's also really good at raiding and other things, so he has utility, right? It's a faster... Well, generally it's considered a little bit faster. Now, Fafnir is doing okay, I would say, right? He's not excelling in any category, right? Like the Fire Giant or the Avenger, but he's doing slow and steady amounts of damage, and he still has relatively high HP. So you can see the Avenger's already mopped up his hoplites. Fafnir's doing pretty well. Fire Giant is dead. And the Chimera is dead. So the ones that won this test, I would say the Avenger would win. But Fafnir is holding his own as well. The other thing to remember is the Avenger is almost dead, right? It doesn't have the same level of tankiness that Fafnir has, which is at 1500 HP with great armor stats as well. So now the question becomes, does this test change if there's multiple myth units in the batch, right? If we have multiple Avengers, multiple Fire Giants, does anything change? So let's have a look. I would say that the Fire Giants probably do a lot better because they're going to have a lot more splash and they're going to insta-kill units. But if you look at it, not much has changed. Like, this is absolutely insane how fast the Avengers just mopped up all of the hoplites, which is crazy for me to see. And they took almost no damage because they killed them so fast too. And the Fire Giant did a little bit better now that he had assistance, obviously, but I don't think much really changed. Fafnir, same thing. He performed similar to what he did when he was just him by himself. So in this test, we're thinking about it in the sense that if these myth units were supported by an army, how would they do? They're not going to be surrounded by melee units. They're all just going to get off their special and do as much DPS as they possibly can. So let's just play this and let's see what happens. You can see right off the bat, the Fire Giant just eliminated a batch of units and completely removed them off the fight, right? So what that means is these units are not able to actually kill your units, and they're not going to be able to get as much DPS off on your army. They're eliminated from the fight, whereas Fafnir and Chimera are still working on theirs, right? So now Fafnir just got his first batch right there, and the Chimera is doing damage over time. Actually, the Chimera is doing a lot of damage. You can see the Chimera actually did better than both the Fire Giant and Fafnir. So if units are situated in a specific spot and they're not moving around and they don't dodge the special from the Chimera is actually going to kill these units faster, right? The Fire Giant now is single use, right? It's not going to be able to do its special off, so it's going to be just an ordinary myth unit. But you can see that Fafnir is competing alongside the Chimera. And to be honest, I think the Chimera win. So the Chimera win, and then Fafnir and the Fire Giants are almost kind of tied. So how does Fafnir compare to a Fire Giant, let's say, when attacking buildings? They both have crushed DPS, which is going to be 12 for Fafnir and about 10 for the Fire Giant. So let's just let them wither away this building and see how they do. From the looks of it, the Fire Giant is doing slightly better, but that could just be a little bit of RNG. Honestly, from the looks of it, actually thinking about this, they both look around the same. And I think Fafnir is going to be second. So I think when it comes to making myth units and assessing their strength, we can't look at the base stats alone. We have to look at the other attributes that have been given to them. For example, Fafnir has a special, but the Medusa also has a really nice special, which is the Petrification. Mummy has an amazing special, which is ability to turn dead units into minions, and the list goes on. So you can't look at them just by base stats alone. And if we were looking at it on base stats alone, Fafnir might be considered one of the best. But is he really one of the best? And that's something that I posed that question to my community, my Discord community, and I had some really nice answers. So I want to share that with you guys. And at the very end of this video, I'm going to give you my thoughts. Alright, so just to start this off, Klotz has said that he feels it's underwhelming considering it donates 300 gold to your enemy. Then you have Skiage, who says he feels it's underrated. It beats every other unit in the game in terms of its every resource metric. While 300 gold to enemies can be harsh, there are game states where it doesn't really matter. He wouldn't recommend this for Zeus because Bolt and Bellerophon are going to do very well versus it. Very good points. FPod says it's really good in team games when it's spammed. It just has some issues in 1 vs 1 where economies are tighter and the 300 gold donation can become a problem. So that's a very good point from FPod as well. And then we have Tedda Bear, who says Fafnir is quite good, but I despise giving gold to my opponent. And last but not least, Thanik here says that I think it deals slightly too little damage for the donation aspect to make sense. That's something that I was thinking as well. So that was something I'm going to bring up later on as well. In team games where you can mass them, the gold donation and the individual deaths aren't as impactful, as a big push is likely going to eliminate the target. So good point as well. They're very tanky and they're relatively fast, and the linear attack can eat a human army if you have enough of them. So overall, all of these people had really good points, and I do thank them for giving me their comments. So let me just go on and jump into what I think about the unit itself. So I think Fafnir is a good unit. However, I think he has his flaws. I think in terms of his greatest strength, it's going to be his durability. He's a very, very tanky unit, as I've shown you already at the beginning of this video. But The off-putting thing is if you lose him, you lose 300 gold. Well, you donate 300 gold to your opponent. So it's a little bit counterintuitive because you can't use his best strength. If you put him on the front lines and you end up losing him, then you're just donating your opponent 300 gold. So now that means you kind of want to keep him in the back line, but at the same time, if you're putting him in the back line, he doesn't do that much DPS, I think, in terms of comparing it to like a fire giant or another type of myth unit that does a lot of AoE splash damage, like a chimera, right? So he doesn't really excel in that area. I think he's still good in that area, but doesn't really excel. Now, the thing to keep in mind is Fafnir is a myth unit that actually does divine damage. So as units scale in their armor and their HPs, or rather their armor mainly, Fafnir would still be relevant in the later stages of the game. Whereas other myth units that don't do divine damage are going to fall off. So in that sense, Fafnir is kind of cool, but I don't personally think that the 300 gold penalty is warranted. I think it should come down significantly, and if they don't want to reduce the penalty of Fafnir's 300 gold, I think they should give him a little bit more DPS. So similar to what Thonic said in the messages that I showcased you guys. Alright, so just let me know what you guys think. I would very much want to hear what you have to say, and thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.